Christopher Reeve grabbed Robin Williams in the hallway outside room 304. Don't do it. He's setting you up to fail. They were roommates, the only two students accepted into Juilliard's advanced program that year. Opposites. Reeve was tall, disciplined, classical, Houseman's perfect student. Robin was chaos, improvising, joking, breaking every rule. For months, the other students had mocked Robin, called him Little Fool Ferret Boy behind his back. Even Houseman called him uncontrollable. Now Houseman had given Robin a final assignment: perform Hamlet's soliloquy with a twist so humiliating that Reeve begged him to refuse. He wants you to quit. Just drop out. Save yourself the embarrassment. But Robin didn't quit. 48 hours later, he walked onto that stage in front of 50 students and John Houseman, the man who'd taught for 30 years and never, ever showed emotion during student performances. What Robin did next made Houseman break his own rule, stand up mid-performance, and say something that proved the greatest talents are the ones nobody knows how to teach. September 1973. Juilliard School, Lincoln Center, New York, the most prestigious performing arts conservatory in America. Getting into Juilliard's drama division was nearly impossible. Getting into the advanced program, John Houseman's elite training ground for serious classical actors, was beyond impossible. That year, out of hundreds of auditions, Houseman accepted exactly 2 students: Christopher Reeve, 21, from Cornell University, tall, handsome, technically flawless, the kind of actor who could recite Shakespeare in his sleep, and Robin Williams, 21, from Claremont Men's College in California. Short, manic, undisciplined, the kind of performer who'd never met a script he couldn't ignore. Nobody understood why Houseman had accepted Robin. Reeve made sense. Perfect posture, perfect diction, perfect control. But Robin? During his audition, he'd done 6 different voices in a single monologue, improvised half the lines, and turned a tragic scene from King Lear into something that almost made Houseman laugh. Almost. Houseman never laughed. But something about Robin's audition, the raw energy, the fearlessness, the chaos, made Houseman curious, maybe dangerous, maybe brilliant. Probably both. The first day of classes, Houseman laid out his expectations. You are here to learn classical technique, discipline, structure, control. Your talent, whatever you believe it to be, means nothing without form. I will give you form. He looked directly at Robin when he said it. Robin was spinning a pencil on his desk. He didn't notice.
Christopher Reeve noticed everything. Noticed how the other students looked at Robin with a mix of confusion and disdain. Noticed how Robin couldn't sit still, bouncing his leg, tapping his fingers, making tiny sound effects under his breath. Noticed how different they were. Reeve had notebooks filled with character analysis, voice exercises, movement studies. Robin had a single notebook with doodles in the margins and half-finished thoughts scribbled everywhere.
They became roommates by accident. Housing mix-up. But it worked. Reeve was organized, quiet, methodical. Robin was chaos incarnate, talking nonstop, doing impressions of their professors, staying up until 3 a.m., improvising conversations between his toy soldiers or company. So Reeve started doing voices too, playing along. 2 opposites, finding common ground in absurdity. But in class, the problems began immediately. Houseman assigned scenes, serious, classical scenes. Robin couldn't help himself. During the Chekhov monologue, he slipped into a Russian accent mid-sentence. During Shakespeare, he'd improvise stage directions, turning a dramatic death scene into physical comedy. The other students were horrified. This was Juilliard. You didn't improvise Shakespeare. You didn't make jokes during Chekhov. You certainly didn't ignore John Houseman's blocking. After 3 weeks, Houseman pulled Robin aside. Mr. Williams, you have talent. Raw, undisciplined, unfocused talent, but talent nonetheless. However, if you cannot learn control, you will never be a serious actor. You will be a clown. He said clown like it was a disease. Is that what you want? Robin looked at him. I don't know what I want, sir. I just know I need to move. I can't stand still. Then you will learn. Houseman walked away. But Robin didn't learn, or couldn't. In movement class, he'd turn ballet exercises into comedy routines. In voice class, he'd answer questions in different accents. The other students started calling him Little Fool Ferret Boy behind his back, a mocking reference to his manic energy, his small frame, his inability to be serious. Some said it affectionately. Most said it with contempt. Even Houseman started using the nickname, though he shortened it to Little Fool. Christopher Reeve defended Robin. He's not trying to disrespect the work, he just processes differently. But even Reeve was frustrated. They'd rehearse scenes together, and Robin would be brilliant for 5 minutes, then completely go off script, improvising, making Reeve break character with laughter. "Robin, we have to perform this tomorrow. Can you please just stick to the lines?" "I am sticking to the lines. I'm just adding texture." "You turned Hamlet into a Brooklyn cab driver."
Danish prince, Brooklyn cab driver, same emotional core.
Reeve couldn't help but laugh. "You're going to get kicked out."
Probably.
By December 1973, Robin was on academic probation. Not for grades, his written work was brilliant, but for failure to demonstrate classical discipline. Houseman told him directly, "You have until the end of spring semester to prove you belong here. Otherwise, you're done." That's when Houseman instituted his rule. He announced it to the entire advanced program class. "I have taught at Juilliard for 30 years. I have trained some of the finest actors in American theater, and I have one rule I have never broken. I do not react during student performances. I sit, I observe, I take notes. I do not stand, I do not applaud, I do not show emotion, because your job is not to move me, your job is to execute technique." He looked around the room. "If any of you ever see me stand during a performance, it means something has gone catastrophically wrong, or impossibly right. In 30 years, neither has happened." The students understood. Houseman's stillness was legendary. You performed, he sat like a statue. You finished, he gave notes. No praise, no criticism during the performance, just cold observation. It was terrifying and motivating in equal measure. Spring semester 1974. Final evaluations approaching. Every student had to perform a classical monologue. Most chose Shakespeare. Some chose Greek tragedy. Safe choices, prestigious choices. Robin asked Houseman what he should perform. Houseman looked at him for a long moment. "Hamlet, to be or not to be, the most famous soliloquy in the English language, performed by every great actor in history." Robin nodded. "Okay, I can do that." "I'm not finished." Houseman's eyes were cold. "You will perform it as a 6-year-old child." The room went silent. Students stopped breathing. Robin blinked. "I'm sorry, what?"
"You will perform Hamlet's existential meditation on death and suicide as a small child, with a child's voice, a child's movement, a child's understanding of mortality." Houseman's face was expressionless. "You have 48 hours to prepare. This is your final evaluation. If you fail, you are dismissed from Juilliard." After class, in the hallway outside room 304, Christopher Reeve grabbed Robin's arm. "Don't do it. He's setting you up to fail."
"I know." "Robin, this is impossible. How do you perform Hamlet, as a child without it being a joke? It's theatrical suicide. He's giving you a choice. Humiliate yourself or drop out."
Maybe.
"There's no maybe. He wants you gone. He's been trying to break you all year. This is his final move. Just refuse. Drop out with dignity. You're talented. You'll find another path."
Robin looked at his roommate, his only real friend at Juilliard, and smiled. "What if I can do it?"
"You can't. Nobody can." "Then I'll fail spectacularly."
Reeve stared at him. "You're actually going to do this?"
"Yeah."
"You're insane."
"Probably." For 48 hours, Robin disappeared. Reeve barely saw him. Robin wasn't in the cafeteria, wasn't in their room, wasn't anywhere. Reeve later learned he'd been in the practice studios, working through the night. No sleep, just Robin and Hamlet, and the impossible task of making a 6-year-old voice carry the weight of to be or not to be. The day of the performance, room 304 was packed, all 50 students in the advanced program, and John Houseman, sitting in his usual chair, front row center, notebook open, pen ready, face expressionless. He'd been sitting in that chair for 30 years. He'd seen Katharine Hepburn perform on that stage as a student. He'd seen Kevin Kline, Patti LuPone, dozens of actors who went on to greatness. He'd seen brilliance and disaster. He never moved, never reacted, never stood. Robin walked onto the stage. He looked tiny up there, nervous. The other students whispered. This was going to be a disaster. Houseman's pen was poised above his notebook, ready to write what would certainly be a scathing evaluation.
Robin took a breath, and then he became a 6-year-old child.
His posture changed, shoulders pulled in, head tilted slightly down, eyes wide and uncertain. His voice, when he spoke, wasn't a parody of a child. It was a child, small, questioning, confused.
To be or not to be? The room held its breath, because it wasn't funny, it wasn't a joke, it was devastating.
That is the question. The child's voice made it an actual question. A 6-year-old trying to understand something impossibly big, trying to understand death.
Robin's hands moved like a child's hands, uncertain, grabbing at air, trying to hold on to thoughts too big for small fingers. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
A child trying to understand suffering, a child who'd been hurt and didn't know why.
Or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and, by opposing, end them.
Fighting back, a child's defiance, small fists against the universe.
To die. To sleep. Robin's voice got quieter, more uncertain. A child afraid of the dark. Afraid of what sleep might mean if you never wake up.
No more. A whisper. A child's wish for pain to stop.
Students were crying, not because it was sad, because it was true. Every adult in that room had been a child once, had asked these questions in their own way, had felt small and confused and terrified by the bigness of existence. Robin wasn't performing Hamlet. He was showing them what Hamlet actually was, a person confronting the unbearable weight of being alive.
And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to.
A child's voice breaking on heartache. Because children know heartache. They just don't have words for it yet. Hamlet gave them words.
John Houseman's pen had stopped moving. He was staring at the stage, his notebook forgotten.
It is a consummation, devoutly to be wished.
Robin's child voice made devoutly sound like a prayer, like a 6-year-old's prayer. Please let the pain stop. Please let me understand. Please let me sleep without nightmares.
To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. There's the rub. The child's voice got scared. Nightmares, that's what children fear about sleep, the dreams you can't control.
For in that sleep of death what dreams may come. Robin's whole body was trembling now, a child terrified of dying, because what if death is just nightmares forever?
Must give us pause.
The pause Robin took was enormous, a child frozen in fear. Every student in that room was frozen with him.
And then John Houseman stood up.
The scrape of his chair against the floor was the loudest sound in the world. 50 students turned to look. Because in 30 years, Houseman had never stood during a performance. Never. This was his rule, his one unbreakable rule.
But he was standing, hands at his sides, staring at Robin Williams, and there were tears on John Houseman's face.
Robin saw him, saw Houseman standing, saw the tears, and for just a moment, Robin broke character, his own eyes filling with tears. Then he finished, as the child, as Hamlet, as himself.
Thus conscience does make cowards of us all.
A child admitting fear, admitting that thinking too much makes you afraid to live.
And thus, the native hue of resolution is sickly door with the pale cast of thought. Robin's child voice made sickly door sound like a child trying to use big words to explain something they felt but didn't understand.
And enterprises of great pith and moment, with this regard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. The child's voice faded, gave up, sat down on the stage, small and defeated. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. A whisper. A child seeing someone they love and not knowing how to reach them anymore.
Robin finished. The stage went silent. John Houseman was still standing, still crying. He walked onto the stage, something he'd also never done in 30 years. He stood in front of Robin, looked down at this 22-year-old chaos of a student who'd broken every rule and somehow found the truth underneath all of them.
Houseman said 7 words he'd never said to any student in 3 decades of teaching. I have nothing to teach you. The room gasped. Students thought it was a dismissal, an insult, but Houseman wasn't finished. I have nothing to teach you, because what you have cannot be taught. I've spent 30 years training actors in technique, in discipline, in classical structure, and you just showed me that sometimes the rules exist to be broken, not carelessly, not disrespectfully, but truthfully. Houseman wiped his eyes, embarrassed by his own emotion. You found the child in Hamlet. Every actor plays Hamlet as a tortured intellectual. You played him as what he actually was, a boy who never got to grow up properly, asking questions no one should have to ask alone.
Houseman turned to the class. Mr. Williams will not be dismissed. He will be given his degree, and I will remember this performance for the rest of my life as the day a student taught the teacher.
Robin Williams graduated from Juilliard in 1975. He left early, actually, before completing the full program, because he got work. But Houseman never forgot that performance. Years later, when Robin was famous, when Mork and Mindy was a hit, when he was becoming a comedy legend, Houseman gave an interview. The reporter asked, "In all your years of teaching, who was your most memorable student?"
Houseman didn't hesitate. Robin Williams, the little fool who taught me that genius doesn't need permission. In 1988, John Houseman died. Robin Williams spoke at his memorial service at Juilliard. He told the story about Hamlet, about being called Little Fool Ferret Boy, about the impossible assignment, about Houseman standing up and crying. And Robin said this, "Mr. Houseman tried to give me discipline, structure, rules, and I fought him every step of the way. But here's what I learned. He wasn't trying to cage me. He was trying to give me tools. And the day he stood up during my performance, he taught me the most important lesson of all. Know the rules well enough to break them beautifully." Today, in room 304 at Juilliard, there's a plaque. It doesn't mention Robin Williams by name. It just says, "To the students who remind us that technique serves truth, not the other way around. Sometimes the greatest performances are the ones that break every rule." But every acting teacher at Juilliard knows the story. They tell it to new students. About the kid who couldn't sit still, who drove everyone crazy, who got called Little Fool, and who performed Hamlet as a 6-year-old child and made John Houseman, the man who never showed emotion, who never stood during performances, who never broke his own rules, stand up and cry and admit he had nothing left to teach. Christopher Reeve said it best years later. Robin didn't learn to act at Juilliard. He learned that what he already had was enough. He learned to trust the chaos. And Houseman, for all his rules and discipline, gave Robin the greatest gift a teacher can give, permission to be exactly who he was meant to be. If this story about breaking rules, finding your truth, and the courage to be different moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with someone who's been told they don't fit in, who's been called a fool for being themselves. Have you ever broken a rule and discovered something true? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible stories about the misfits, the rebels, and the artists who changed the world by refusing to fit in boxes.